two Chelsea home games in particular, last season and this year. Kind of how much you feel that those games like derailed both the seasons, really, given the kind of injuries that happened in each of them.
Yeah, bizarre games. We kind of, as a natural course of events, you always review when you're playing an opponent some of the past games. But both bizarre because in the first half hour of both those games we were unbelievable, as good as we've been, and then kind of things just fell apart. But that happens in football sometimes. And again, that's stuff you can't control. There's some learnings there, but there's also some understanding that when we are playing at our best, we're a pretty compelling team against anybody, and we saw that in those games, like I said, particularly here at home. So, but I think it's a different challenge away from home, playing Chelsea. I think anyone who plays, it's a tighter ground. It tends to not be too sort of open in terms of the football. So I think it'll be a different game. It'll require different things from us.
That home game is the last time Romero and Van der Ven started together in the league. I mean, you will be aware that there's been a lot of debate about the decision to play them that day. I mean, given the kind of distance passed, I guess. I mean, can you talk in a bit of detail about kind of the build-up to that game and kind of what prompted you to put them in?
Well, what prompted me to put them in was that Romero's coming back from a knock on his toe, but he was fit. And Mickey, obviously, with his hamstring, he'd passed all the tests. He'd done everything, and everyone felt like he was ready to go. There was some other context around that. We'd lost a couple of other centre halves, and it kind of unravelled. I know going into the game, I was, my main concern was Mickey. I wasn't really concerned about Christian, but then you lose Christian with an unrelated injury, and then sort of puts more pressure on Mickey, and then Mickey gets injured. So, in hindsight, again, Mr. Hindsight, I would have not played either of them, and they would have got injured the next game, mate. It's just the way football works. There's no precise. Like I said, I think with those kind of things, I think it's better you take a sort of a step back and look at it from an overall perspective rather than pinpoint in time. And that's what I was kind of saying beforehand about looking at how we went into the season. Guys, especially Romero, hardly did any pre-season with us, and wasn't wise to play him from the first game. Is this something that we need to look at? Guys who don't do pre-season, I've done it before in my career where you kind of, wait till they're ready to go. So, but I think that's all for the end of the year.
Matt? I was coming to that actually, Ange, and hello.
No, but
going too hard at the start of the season. Are you talking about pre-season there, or?
No, just in terms of, I think at the start of the season, knowing what kind of pre-season we'd had in that, we was really disruptive in terms of the amount of players who weren't part of it for an extended period of time. I think we just went into the league season, and then, obviously we had Europe coming in as well, and then, we got a decent run in the Carabao Cup that, in retrospect, we probably, like I said, I should have sort of looked at it from a different perspective of when do we introduce players into the first team to really sort of, drive into our season.
Does that have any impact on what you do in pre-season? I'm asking because you're off to play Arsenal in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually the pre-season break. It's who's involved in it more than anything else. Like I said, last year we had a lot of players with international duty who came back at pretty late in the piece. So I guess what I'm trying to sort of explain is that, I think players need a good 2 to 3 week block of training before they play, so if that means somebody comes in the last week of pre-season, rather than sort of us putting them in the first team, is give them that block and make them available selection after we really think they've had a decent hit out. So it's not the actual design of pre-season. I think this year, what we've done so far, I think it's looking like, from a games program and the trips we need to do, I think it's a pretty decent program we've got.
Is that something that players have to learn then, because they come in and want to play again?
Yeah, but we're in charge of that. We've got to be the ones that kind of dictate that. Of course, like you said, and I don't think there's any player that wants to do pre-season. If they could all avoid it, they would. So it's something we've got to, I think with the way football's going, and it's gone in recent times. I've said it a lot. Then the volume of games that players are playing, plus the fact that they're not really getting the traditional summer break they always had. I think you've got to start thinking about, and like I said, I've done it in the past, that you kind of tailor it a little bit more individually now, rather than say, you know what, we do our pre-season on the first day, everyone's ready to go. I just don't think that world exists.
Charlie?
You mentioned earlier about a slightly extended window for some teams that didn't play at the weekend. Do you think for some clubs it's quite a handy reset, that extra time, and the opposite to that for some teams who had momentum? Is it quite a bad thing?
Yeah, it just depends. Again, like, we've got a lot of players, like a lot of clubs, I guess, who it's not just the international commitments they have, it's the travel. Like Sonny, goes half around the world to South American boys, and usually we'd be lucky to get them back before Friday. And if you're playing on Sunday, some clubs play Saturday. It takes a toll on those guys. So having that weekend off, actually, I think most clubs the ones who had it off would say it's been beneficial for them, because the normal load that international players would have, it gives them that extra couple of days to kind of have a normal week leading into a game. So I think there wouldn't be many clubs who wouldn't find it beneficial, I think.
When you spoke to the players, when they all got back together again, did you sort of talk to them about sort of sectioning off this last bit of the season, or in terms of a general chat, or did you just talk to them about the game you've got tomorrow?
A little bit of both. I think we kind of know now that, there's 9 league games, hopefully 5 in Europa, so you've got about 14 games, 53 days together, so you've got to clear with no interruption, so you've got a clear sort of plan there of what we can do, and but you've got to chip away at it game by game, and it starts tomorrow night.
John.
Hello.
Hey, John.
I was just going to ask you, because you've got perspective across different frontiers of club and international and different things. Have you got a solution in your head or ideas in your head about how the calendar could be fixed? I don't know whether that means a 4-week holiday window set in stone, or cap on the number of games or minutes.
Yeah, I think it'll get to a point where it's got to be a combination of that. I definitely think that players need a certain amount of time for their bodies to recover at the end of the year. Now, most players these days, it's not like they go and sit on the beach. Most of them are pretty smart. They look after themselves. But I think having a minimum days where they have zero contact with football, I think is important. And then it's the amount of games. I mean, I think I might have mentioned it in that interview I did. I think this is probably the only league where you've got this amount of teams, 3 cup competitions, no winter break, and no sort of rest weekends before European fixtures. It's the only league that does it. So either we're smarter than everyone else, or maybe there's something in what others are doing. So I think there needs to be a time where everyone sort of sits together, and I know it's going to hit revenues, which is what everyone sort of, and the players are part of that because they're beneficiaries of those revenues. But, we're going to get to, like I said, a point where either you're going to sort of get rid of squad limits and clubs are going to have 40 players on their books to cope with it, or you're going to get what you're getting at the moment. And you see it every game. You watched last night, players are getting injured, going down, getting injured. And it's going to become more prevalent, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just you at Spurs.
No.
Across the league.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Tendon injuries, for example.
Yeah. And invariably it's hitting clubs in European competition more, which is understandable, or clubs who have extended sort of cup runs, or have a lot of international players. And I think it's not like it's... we've had 2 more European games this year, so it's not like it's decreasing, it's going the other way. So the demands of international football, of continental football, are increasing. So at some point something has to give. I think if we want the product to remain, and we want to look after the most important participants who are the players.
Okay, Tom, and then finish with Jacob, please.
Hi, Ange. For all the noise around kind of other things, it does feel like players are back, not just fit, but also now kind of sharper, having played some games of international break. I mean, have you had to kind of remind the players actually there's a serious upside to this last kind of
No, I haven't had to remind them. I think, again, internally, I think I've said before that they've felt that. I mean, the injured players have been really frustrated that they just haven't been able to help, and you've seen that. They understand what a tough year it's been for everybody, but particularly those players who've had to sort of carry the load. And, it's the worst thing when you can't help your team, apart from, obviously as individuals, they don't like being injured, but they just haven't been able to contribute. And as they've trickled back, that you can sense that their enthusiasm and their sort of energy is now transferring to the guys who've had to sort of go through that period. And the one thing I do sense is the players are kind of excited by the prospect of, we're here now, whatever we've been through, but, we've still got an opportunity to do something, special this year. So let's tackle that and tackle that in the manner of we tried to do everything we've done so far, and, playing our football and having a real positive mindset about things.
It's actually quite a rare opportunity for a side like Spurs, I think, to have, you wouldn't say a singular focus on the Europa League, but to have that kind of tunnel vision where you can achieve something in one competition.
Yeah, I mean, we've earned the right to that. We've got to the quarterfinals the same way we got to the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup because of performances through the tough period, and we had to do that, get to this point with some very difficult moments, and with a lot of young players being asked to do, not just young first team players, but young players from our academy to get us to this point. So, I think the players have deserved to be in this position to have a crack at, achieving something.
Are you thinking you might be back to the first leg or second leg?
Not the first leg. I'm sure he'll be pushing for the second leg, but, like I said, he's out of the boot, which is the main thing. That was the first hurdle. Now he's kind of out there training. So it's just going to be how he progresses. But, we're talking a couple of weeks. So, definitely not the first leg, but chance for the second.
Jacob, to finish, please.
Actually, the atmosphere at Stamford Bridge in the last few months has been pretty restless. I mean, it seems like the fans there don't really engage with Enzo Maresca's style of play. He's talked in the last few weeks about struggling against teams who don't really come up to play. Obviously, you're a team with an attacking reputation, but for this occasion, do you almost look to play on that kind of tension that's there, go in the opposite direction, and just kind of ultimately make it quite boring to frustrate them, really?
No, mate. Sorry to disappoint. No, we'll go there and have a crack and see. Hopefully it'll be a good game, and hopefully we come out on top. I think every club's kind of on its own journey, and like I said, I was brought here for a specific reason, a couple of specific reasons. One was to change the way the club plays its football. Like I said, rejuvenate the squad and bring some success, and we're well and truly on that road, and we'll stay on that road till those things happen. Good.
Okay, thank you.